Okay, so having some issues. So we're gonna be doing this super lo-fi, just recording raw and putting this out, no editing. So I'm sorry about that. I've recorded this South Division review yesterday. Went to edit it. None of my software works. I can't find any good free editing software that works that doesn't have a watermark. So let's hop into a couple things here. Let me pull here. I'm gonna pause this. I'm gonna pull up the battles. And we'll be right back. Okay, back at it here with our first battle of the week. We've got Darren taking on Connor. At this point, two veterans in the league. Looking at the matchup here, I think like Darren's Zera Aura outspeeds everything. So does the Cinderace, with the exception of the Darkrai. So I feel like Darkrai is going to be pretty important here. Between Dark Pulse and Focus Blast, it can hit everything for neutral, if not super effective damage. I don't know what you'd want to put on it. I like Thunderbolts would be nice just to hit the Corviknight a little bit harder. But otherwise, I think Darkrai is looking like it's in a good spot. On Darren's side of the field, he's just got to worry about outspeed and stuff. Like, if he can get off the attacks, he'll be in good shape, so let's hop into the battle. Okay, so we got the Cinderace lead versus the Jumpluff, obvious, easy. Oh, I guess Jumpluff's faster than most things, but also it's a Jumpluff, so that's kind of a big hindrance there. So we get the Protean U-turn out. Honestly, I guess at the end of the day, missing that probably means he got more damage off, because then he could get Stab U-turn. Not sure if that's exactly how it would work out, but pretty good. A lot of pivoting to start here. Now, for those of you who have seen this battle already before, first of all, the Bullet Seed did pretty good damage. I don't know if that's loaded dice or banded. I feel like it's banded. For those of you who had seen this before, I'm curious if you think that how you feel about Darren's use of the Zera Aura. If you think it was effective here or not. And you'll see what I mean here in a minute. Yeah, so that's obviously not Zera Aura because it has Poison Touch that activated. So the I guess I'll pause it at this point. The court change on Cinderace, obviously very good, but after you kick the rocks over there, then if more hazards go up, then you have no way of getting rid of them. Which, thankfully he does have a defogger here, but it's something he has to be cognizant of. Darren does. So this is kind of crazy that he just decided to stay in, happened to live, and just decided to roost. I'm not really sure what he was playing out there, making him think maybe he's going to switch out, but he doesn't really have a lot of great fire switch-ins. I guess, like, yeah, so here we go. This is... So we see the Brute Bonnet go for a Shadow Ball here. In my mind, this absolutely gives away that it's Zera Aura. My question is, I don't know if Connor... I mean, I guess Connor didn't clock it, otherwise I think he would have done something different. But I'm of two minds about how this goes, because either... So this point, he should have definitely known it was Zera Aura. I think he could have gotten tricked, but also you should have probably asked yourself, I am a Life Orb Infernape. He knows I could switch moves, either go for another Fire Blast, a Close Combat. A lot of Infernapes even run U-turn. He's in a very good position here. Worst thing that this Brute Bonnet could do is go for Sucker Punch, which you resist. So, I think he probably should have tweaked here. This might be Zera Aura, and probably played accordingly. He dies to the Shadow Ball. Definitely should have done it there. Now Jumpluff comes out. Now this first play he makes here, he gets hit with the Shadow Ball, he lives it, that's fine. Goes for a Stun Spore, so... To me, this tells me, oh, he knows it's Zera Aura because Brute Bonnet's a grass type. Powder moves don't work on grass types. So, Connor must have known that this was a Zera Aura. I'm going to turn down this music just a little bit because I feel like it's distracting me a little bit. So hopefully it's not distracting you guys too much. Yeah, that's much more, that's less in my brain. Oh, okay, so... Either Connor didn't know that that grass Pokemon are immune to powder moves, or he knows it's Zera Aura. Doesn't end up working out because he misses it, and then gets hit with another Shadow Ball and goes down. And then we go into the Ariados. which just immediately straight up dies to a Shadow Ball. Didn't try to go for Sucker Punch if he had it or anything. Then he goes into the Darkrai and goes for Sludge Bomb, which, if you know it's Zeraora, you go for Dark Pulse. So maybe Connor didn't know. Just something to look out for. Obviously, like, there's a chance Connor and Darren play each other again, like in playoffs. But hopefully he learns from these mistakes, and hopefully the other people watching do as well. But at this point, kind of the damage has been done. This Darkrai's taken a good chunk of damage. I should switch out into the Polion, take a little bit of rocks, take a Shadow Ball, take another Shadow Ball, and Darren's just in a very good position from here on out. He can very safely win. The Darkrai does finally go for the Dark Pulse. In comes the Grafai. Gets flinched by this Dark Pulse. I don't know if he had like low kick or if he's just going to go for a U-turn to finish him off. Could have saved himself a Peru there, but we're not going to end up seeing that. But the Brute Bond is going to come in, take that Dark Pulse really well. Chance that he gets flinched all the way down are pretty low. So Darren comes out with the win here. Connor obviously made some mistakes. Really just he totally misplayed the Zeraora thing, which really skews the battle. He basically gave up 3 free KOs to Zeraora. And, you know, this battle ended up coming down to a 3-0, so I think this could have been a little bit more competitive if Connor had been aware of those potential pitfalls. Next up, we've got Papkin and the Texarkana Toxics taking on Tyler and the Oakland Galators. Oh, did I not say the team names for the last one? I don't think I did. Darren's the Detroit Dragapults, and Connor is the Grand Rapids Greninjas. We have pretty much all of our... oh, no, we don't. We lost a couple of the Detroit or Michigan-based teams, but we still have a lot of Michigan-based teams in the South here. Okay. Papcoon brought he brought Sun. He brought 3 Pokemon that benefit, 5, oh, Jesus, brought 5 Pokemon that benefit from the Sun. And Bronzong, I mean, we'll end up seeing what it does. Tyler brought his usual assortment of Pokemon he just thinks might be fun. I don't know how much thought he puts into them. But let's hop into it. So we get the Ninetales lead versus the Blaziken. Now, if I were in this position, I'd probably be a little bit hesitant with Ninetales because it's like, hey, who knows what this Blaziken's got? It could be Scarfed. It could outspeed me and go for Earthquake or Stone Edge or knock off my my Heat Rock or Heavy Duty Boots. I'm sure we see what item it is, but I don't remember. That's pretty important, especially if I have a solid switch into this. Like I should go into it. But he just stays in very boldly and goes for the extra sensory. Doesn't get a flinch or anything, but dodges a Stone Edge. So pretty lucky there overall. Ninetales dodging Stone Edges, can you believe it? Goes to the other extra sensory, switches it up to the Flamethrower, does a ton of damage. This Stone Edge won't miss because of no guard. So in comes Gouging Fire, gets the defense boost. I honestly think that Gouging Fire is strong enough where you probably have the opportunity to set up a little bit on this Golurk. Even takes a little bit of Rocky Helmet damage. So, you know, hindsight's 20/20. Maybe you do something different there. Azumarill comes in. Kind of an interesting call here because Azumarill has a couple of things going against it here. All of its attacks are going to be neutral versus this Gouging Fire. Its water attacks are even weakened because of the sun, and this thing has a defense boost. Azumarill's not the right play to go into here. Especially because this Burning Bulwark comes out and burns the Azumarill. And I guess I'll bring this up just because maybe some people don't know it. I saw a discussion about it somewhere else before. Burning Bulwark functions just like King's Shield and that other move. I guess Spiky Shield, it also functions like this. And Toxapex's thing, Baneful Bunker. Status moves will go through this. So if you want to try to Thunder Wave or Toxic, it'll go through Burning Bulwark. Just something to keep in mind. Just because I don't know if everybody knows that, and I feel like they should. Sorry, I had to pause there for a second. Yeah, so this is probably not a good spot for it to be. But honestly, really impressive what Tyler pulls off here, because the next move he goes for, unfortunately on this Bronzong, is a Facade. What amazing prep! I can't believe it. Like, I don't know how that ended up happening. You don't typically see Tyler with that level of preparation. Goes into the Magneton. He's getting Thunderbolted on, taking quite a bit of damage on this Bronzong. But this Bronzong is going to rest, which I wonder if it did have iron defense, or sorry, not iron defense. It obviously had iron defense. Body press, it should have, and if it did, I probably would have gone for it there, because if you're going to rest on that turn, you're going to take 3 more Thunderbolts by the time you wake up. Assuming he doesn't bolt switch out, which he ended up doing. But which means you're going to die. You could have at least gotten a KO out of that. But it's all for naught, because Tyler goes into Blaziken, who goes for close combat instead of any sort of fighting move. Fire move. He goes for any sort of fire move. Obviously going to do more damage. Unless he's like really worried that this is in fact heat-proof Bronzong. I mean, that'd be surprising, I think, if it was. But at this point, I feel like Tyler's in a really dominant position. He's gotten rid of like 2 of the bigger physical attackers. Another mistake by Tyler here, because we could have seen him go for a Thunderbolt here. It obviously would have done more damage. I don't know what he was going for there. Like, Aura Sphere doesn't predict anything other than maybe Hisuian, Lilligant, or Gouging Fire. But if he goes into that, like, you then can switch it up. I think it's better to go for the Thunderbolt, maybe get a KO. Another mistake by Tyler there. But, you know, he's rusty. It's going to happen. But also, we get this Raikou who dies to the Life Orb damage. Now, newer listeners to the podcast don't know what's coming, but the old listeners to the podcast do know. So here you go. How many kills did Life Orb get this week? I don't typically like the Life Orb item in Draft League, so I usually keep track of how many times Life Orb gets KOs throughout the season. That's the first one. I think our high was like 7 or 8 in a season. But yeah, I'm not going to do another rant on Life Orb. We've had too many seasons of those. So let's move on with his battle. But Magneton's going to come back in. Ends up going to sleep. I kind of thought we were going to see the Lilligant victory dance up here and go for game. Instead, we see the Screamtail come in against this Pheasantipity. And I'm going to skip past a couple turns here. They just spend a lot of time not really hurting each other very much, and the Pheasantipity ends up getting paralyzed until the Azumarill comes in. Goes for the sod. Really good damage. A burned Azumarill, like, ended up doing pretty well. I'm guessing this is Choice Specs Typhlosion. That Infernal Parade does a lot of damage to a burned Azumarill, and it goes down. So, good call there switching out. It's the safest thing to do, especially because this Magneton comes in and turns into a water type. Pretty good. But this Magneton has already burned the first initial turn of sleep back, like, you know, a couple turns ago. When it got put to sleep, actually burned the mandatory first turn sleep. So it had an opportunity to wake up here. It didn't. This Gouging Fire then doubles back to Hisuian Typhlosion, and it doesn't wake up there. Gets all 3 turns of sleep. Takes the Infernal Parade. See, if he had woken up on... If he had gotten a first turn wake, I think he might actually be in an okay position, depending on if, like, Pheasantipity had, like, Gunk Shot or Poison Jab or something. So, kind of bad luck there. But Gouging Fire is going to be able to come in and clean up here. It gets paralyzed there. Heat Crash is doing a lot of damage. The Quick Attack comes out. It gets the Toxic Chain on it. And he said, oh, I pulled the Logan. Which some of you may be wondering what that is. But don't worry. Capcoon knows. He knows immediately that it's the wrong ability. Logan is famous for forgetting to check the abilities on his Pokemon. I don't think I'm going to go into it right now and try to figure out what Pokemon are potential trip-ups for. Maybe I'll look that up and I'll talk about it in the North podcast if I remember. But Papkin played pretty well here. I think he could have cleaned up a couple of plays, but it's also like really hard to play against someone like Tyler when they're pretty unpredictable. So maybe you go with kind of, I don't know. I feel like his plays were a little bit sloppy. Also, it's funny because the crit that he got a crit on the Toxic Chain that did 9%. So that means normally it would have done 6%. Like if he had crit with a Technician then it would have been doing 15%, still an irrelevant amount of damage. Yeah, I don't know what his last move was, but out of the 3 we saw, only quick attack was actually technician boosted. But I don't know. That's that battle, and now we're gonna move on to our final battle of the week, which means I have to queue something up here. Hang on, everybody. Here we go. It's time for
Marquee match of the week. Now we have a theme.
So here we go. Marquee match of the week. We've got Zhang and his crazy dual weather team taking on Zhang of the he's the Minnesota Typhlosion now. That's what he is. Taking on Michael and the Santa Fe Suicune. Gonna take some time to get used to that. Especially now because we have a Mike and a Michael. A little tricky. Zhang, in absolute defiance of everything I said in my draft breakdown, decided he wasn't going to bring Torkoal to this game. So, that means he has no hazard clearing. That means he has no... Does he even have rocks on? Yeah, he doesn't have... No hazard clearing. No rocks. And he's got no Sunsetter. So, we'll see how it goes. He went hard with the rain this time. Let's look at how it works out for him. He gets the lead, Araquanid versus the Espeon, goes for the Leech Life. Good call by Michael to put up the Reflect there. That was kind of a perfect lead situation for him. He got to prevent the Sticky Webs for a little bit. But this is kind of a weird play here. Staying in on the water, the water bubble Araquanid, even if you have a Reflect up, that's not something I would do. But it's also kind of weird because he goes for a Play Rough, gets a crit. I think the play on the field here was, I think Zhang probably expected him to go for a rock move, like Stone Edge or something. That's why he turned into a pure water type to avoid that, get rid of that bug weakness. But unfortunately, he takes on a ground and fighting weakness. So a little bit unfortunate, but it ends up working out for Michael there. Not the best play, honestly, because Play Rough, I doesn't hit anything else that would be likely to come in significantly harder. I mean, yeah, if it had gone for Walking Wake or Roaring Moon, but I think in that situation, it doesn't make sense for him to have gone into them on that play. So that's why I bring that up. But Zhang takes the opportunity to get the Sticky Webs up. This is going to be a thorn in Michael's side for most of the battle, but the rocks go up. That's an even bigger thorn in Zhang's side because he's got no way of getting rid of these rocks. Because he didn't bring Torkoal in defiance of God and man. The Glacier is going to come in on the U-turn, goes right into Pecharunt. Pecharunt's heavy-duty boots, so I guess it doesn't matter too much there. But very smart Terra Steel on the Malignant Chain for Michael here. Going to give this Glacier an opportunity to get off, modest damage, shall we say, against the Pecharunt. As the Walking Weight comes in on an absolutely insane Outrage play. So this, obviously, I think, that's a good prediction for Michael, looking back at it now. He just showed Crunch, even though it didn't do a lot of damage. You're going to want to go into something that can take a Crunch. He's got a Dark Resist right there in Roaring Moon. I think it makes sense, the play he made here. It's just you don't typically see Outrage on non-Dragon type Pokemon, so that's why it's kind of a crazy call there, but it worked out. Hydro Steam comes out. So, note about Hydro Steam. Hydro Steam is actually is it significantly less strong? Let me think. Maybe it's not significantly less strong, but it is, of your water move options, it's the weakest one. If you're just in rain, Surf does more damage, Hydro Pump does more damage because they're higher base power. In the sun, Hydro Steam does more damage than those because it ignores the reduction. It actually gets boosted by the sun as opposed to getting reduced by the sun like most water. So Hydro Steam's obviously here because it'll function well enough in both weathers. But that's, that's one of the drawbacks here, is because if you're going to be running both weathers, you have to run Hydro Steam, which means you're going to miss out on some potential damage. Not that he would have KO'd with any water move from this position, but he also couldn't go for a fire move against the steel type, which he probably has a fire move, because he's in the rain. So just brings back my other point of maybe Torkoal round. But he's locked into Outrage, so now the Walking Wake is going to go down. Glacier is going to ignore that Parting Shot by getting the boost. Not going to live that Liquidation, unfortunately. Also couldn't switch out due to the fact that he was locked into Outrage still. But going into Clodsire here telegraphs, hey, I've got Water Absorb. You can't click Liquidation against my team at any point, otherwise it's a free switch into Clodsire. And he's going to just keep that Clodsire healthy. Smart move. X isn't doing a lot of damage, and he can't be poisoned. He's just going to be chipping away at that Pecharunt and burning out those recovers. Something he's got to do. Something you can do now. Remember back when Recover was 16 PP and burning recovers? It'd be just what an undertaking to have to do. Okay, Florges is going to come in here. There's a weird sequence of events here because we get this Florges gets confused on this Hurricane. I believe Zheng Yu turns out. No, yeah. Okay, so the Calm Mind goes up. Zheng Yu turns out into Pecharunt. Pecharunt has an ability, Poison Puppeteer, where if it poisons something, then that Pokemon gets confused. Florges is already confused, so watch this series of events because I think it's funny and ironic. This Florges is going to stay in, take the Malignant Chain, get poisoned, and then break out of the confusion because its confusion was unrelated to the Pecharunt. So that's very funny. The Baton Pass, a -1 speed into a Goldengo who immediately goes down to -2 speed, but hey, it's got that boost. So tries to Parting Shot out, but doesn't work because of Goldengo's Good as Gold. I think he was probably going to Parting Shot out into Roaring Moon. If he had hard switched instead of Parting Shotted, I don't think he's going to take a lot of damage from that Shadow Ball, and maybe even gets a setup opportunity. Worst case scenario is going to be able to start firing off crunches and stuff. I think that was I mean, obviously it was a mistake by Zheng, but like how costly it is, hard to say for certain because we see later that this Clodsire can get O-code. The Goldengo is, you know, not super strong. Oh, I said it could go for crunch. It can go for knockoff. Like threatening the Goldengo with knockoff. Like I think that Zheng could have won right here. If actually, hold on. Why didn't he win? Hang on. What happens? He goes into Cottony. That's probably I think why he might not. So Sun goes up. Shadow Ball comes out. What happens, Zheng? I forget, like, I know I just watched this yesterday, but yeah, see, this is kind of what I was playing at. And also he gets the Photosynthesis boost in speed. Goes for the Earthquake, gets a 2-hit KO opportunity here. Right, and the Clodsire comes in, and this actually gets O-code. So he's trying to stall at the Sun. Great Tusk comes in, no Heavy Duty Boots, that's what happens. So actually, would have been better because Great Tusk wouldn't have had the boost to its defense. Maybe it could actually do something to this Roaring Moon. And now you don't have Cottony to kind of go back into and get the Sun up, so that's gone. And now this Great Tusk is faster and was able to get rid of the webs. At this point, there's not much that can be done for Zheng. I don't know. Great Tusk is really defensive. Maybe I'm not giving it enough credit. Yeah, because we see this Earthquake come up that did nothing. He would have had to have like Acro or something. Maybe this is just like banded. Might just be yeah, he could be banded. That's probably what he was. So forget what I said about Zheng misplaying at the end there. But I really think team composition's where he fell down here. I think with better team composition, he probably could have been way more in this, but Michael comes away with his first ABL win in his debut match. I went back and looked at debut matches in the ABL. Honestly, most people lose theirs. I lost mine, Logan lost his, Kyle lost his. Tyler lost his, I believe Dakota won, James won, leave Brett and Zach won. I didn't go back and look at everybody's, just some of the earlier people who are still around. But, you know, significant to come out with your first win there, so that's very nice. So let's jump back to the south here. Let's talk about Kyle versus Josh. Josh recovering from knee surgery. So he's going to make up this game later. What he's effectively doing, I gave Kyle the option, so Kyle actually decided this. I told Kyle he could either play Josh during Kyle's bye week, which would force Josh to do a doubleheader, or Kyle could play the doubleheader and face Josh on Josh's bye week. So Josh's bye week has effectively been moved to week 1 instead of week 9. And Kyle is now playing a doubleheader here in week 5. He'll be playing, or no, never, excuse me. Kyle will be playing a doubleheader here in week 9. We'll be playing both Connor and Josh at the end of the season. Pretty exciting, but tactically maybe not the best move. Things will get a little bit dicey with Terra captains. But I've talked to Kyle about that. He's just going to be able to submit 2. We'll keep track of them. Everyone will be notified of what Terra captains they have to plan for. So that wraps up. Let's take a look at the standings. Not really much to glean from here. So just a reminder that... so we're back to Peru being the primary tiebreaker because we don't have a... Oh, geez, this isn't framed up right. Hang on. Nope. Nope. What's... Yeah, we'll do that, I guess. I gotta fix this framing here. Yeah, we'll roll with that. Sorry, guys. So yeah, it shows Darren at the top here, but it's not really Darren. It's actually whoever has the highest Peru, so it's actually Michael. It'll go Michael, Darren, Papcoon. These 3 didn't play, so interestingly, they're here. So yeah, and there's no relegation here, so I guess this coloring needs to be changed, but we're not... on. That color? Nope. That color? Nope. Oh. Why did I undo? There's no point in undo. That color? Yeah, that's the color. So yeah, that's where we are. It's interesting that the opal's sorted. I don't know, that's weird. And let's go to transactions. This is something I forgot to record last time. I had to do a separate recording, and that's why I had to edit, and I couldn't just put it out raw. Okay, so despite the win, the Santa Fe Suicune, maybe I was saying San Francisco earlier, I can't remember. The Santa Fe Suicune are going to make some decent changes. They're dropping Toad Scroll and picking up Rotom-Mow. That is, you didn't need another ground type spinner in Toad Scroll. But if you wanted a grass type, this also gives him something else off the ground. Gives him something, like Rotom-Mow is an all-around pretty solid Pokemon. And gives him a little less overlap because he already had a bunch of ground types. If you needed a especially defensive ground type, you had Clodsayer. If you needed a ground type spinner, you had Great Tusk. So I think he made the right call by making a change there. But to make room for that, he dropped Doxbun, picked up Grumpig. He already had a much better fairy that he was going to bring most weeks in Florges. You don't really need to bring Doxbun. That's something for. And he also already had a fire immunity, potential fire immunity. Ceruledge, the other thing about Grumpig, maybe I influenced this because I was talking about like Pokemon, like low tier Pokemon that can Terra that have thick fat because it gives them 2 extra resistances that you might not have had access to before. So I like that. He also changed around some of his Terra captains just in preparation for the next week, which everyone's obviously welcome to do. The Papcoon and Texarkana Toxics, let's slide this over because it's not framed up otherwise. Bip, bip, bip. Papcoon and Texarkana Toxics are going to go ahead and drop Appleton to pick up Knacklestack. Another thing where I think like Knacklestack gives you what you need. Also, one thing Appleton was doing was being a really solid water resist. Now he's got a water immunity by dropping Ogerpon and swapping out that teal mask for this Wellspring mask. Gives him a water immunity, gives him like a very threatening physical water stab, which surprisingly is a nice thing to have around. Maybe struggle a little bit in this sun-heavy team he's got here, but unlike some other people in the league, I don't think he needs to bring Sun every week. Speaking of teams that need to bring Sun every week, Zhang decided he was going to drop Raging Bolt, or not Raging Bolt, he's got Raging Bolt still, Roaring Moon, and pick up Ogerpon Hearthflame. So I like this pick. It gives him like a really good fire type Sun abuser. Ogerpon Hearthflame is going to hit so hard in Sun with the Ivy Cudgel. Really something to watch out for. And I just talked about, we talked about Heat Proof and Thick Fat. Mold Breaker is going to look right through those, and it's just going to bop something. So I like that call by Zheng here. Just bring Torkoal, man. I don't know what I did to upset you. Maybe you just decide not to bring Torkoal. Also, the London Dragonites chose their Terra Captains. I guess I'll talk about them just a little bit. They didn't do it last week because they didn't have to because they were on a bye. But Bisharp goes Fire, Ghost, and Flying. Those are types we see all the time on King Gambit. So they're going to work pretty well on Bisharp for the same reasons. Hisui and Decidueye going Ground. Not super sure why. Ghost, seen that a lot. Ghost is also just like kind of a nice type to have, like the immunities. And Rock, I'm guessing for the flying immunity. That might be very matchup specific, but I can't be sure. So, but there's the London Dragonites Terra Captains for you. Also, the Detroit Dragapults also changed their Terra Captains. Oh no, and they did add drops too. I just forgot to put them in here. So they dropped Quaquaval and picked up Terrakion. I think that it's just better speed tier, a little bit stronger out the gate. Still has setup opportunities, but no rapid spin. But I'm guessing he feels comfortable with just having Court Change and Defog on Corviknight in the new edition instead of having Electrode. He's got Oricorio Electric, which does have Defog, so it gives him another hazard clearing option. So we'll see where that goes from. I think these are solid. I think all of these changes are pretty solid, like what people got going on. But that wraps up our coverage of the South. Thank you all for listening, and I'm going to put this out as soon as possible. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.